Hello, this is Lucas Catton. Welcome back to the next story in the Narconon and Scientology Chronicles. And today we're going to talk about Narconon's drug education program. And it really starts from a long time ago. They used to do things through Friends of Narconon and the Narconon All-Stars, and they would kind of start to do stuff. And we'll do some different topics specifically about Friends of Narconon and that sort of thing. But it really sort of solidified and became an actual thing, like a routine thing with Bobby Wiggins. Bobby Wiggins is a Scientology Freedom Medal winner that he won a Freedom Medal from them for developing the Narconon drug education curriculum and administering that to like 1 million kids. It was hundreds of thousands minimally, and then teaching other people to then do that around the world. And so I had spent, back in the fall of 2000, I spent 3 months in Boston training with Bobby Wiggins to do the Narconon drug education curriculum, and then went to Oklahoma and was their first director of drug education before I moved up to a supervisor role, and then became the president out there for a couple of years, few years. But when somebody thinks about drug education as a whole, you think it's a great purpose, and it is. Let's try and protect our kids or give them the information so that they can make healthy decisions as they move forward in life, and hopefully not fall victim to, a substance use disorder of some type or another. However, Narconon's goal, and this is actually in what's called the Narconon Drug Education Lecture Hat, which is the write-up of how you do the drug education. And this is from Bobby Wiggins himself. And it shows all the different talks or presentations that they did and they used and things like that. And in that, at the very beginning, it says the purpose of this is to deliver LRH data on drugs to students in schools. So not, that's like the overarching goal, is to get them L. Ron Hubbard's information about drugs, not let's get them accurate, factual information so they can make healthy decisions or so we can avoid that kind of thing. Yes, of course, they don't want them to become addicted and whatever. So there is certainly some noble intent behind most of the people who have been doing that. But their primary goal, and the reason why Bobby Wiggins won a Freedom Medal, is because it is to forward L. Ron Hubbard's information and to get people interested in L. Ron Hubbard so that they can then go on to do Scientology stuff. And in that, and there's a bunch of different presentations that he did, that he wrote up and has over the years, but in that, he lists out the various references from Scientology that cover the information that he included in these talks. And includes like the book Clear Body, Clear Mind by L. Ron Hubbard, Dynetics 55. There's something called Hubbard Communications Office Bulletins. There's something called the Red Volumes that's like their technical series for their Scientology counseling and services and that sort of thing. So he lists a whole bunch of what are called HCOBs, or Hubbard Communications Office Bulletins. There's one about drugs, then drug data, drugs and insanity, drugs, aspirin and tranquilizers, false data stripping, tone scale in full, obnosis and the tone scale, and then from the Scientology technical dictionary, definition of the time track. And he also includes some other things from what are called the green volumes, or the Hubbard Communication Office policy letters, which is the administrative side of Scientology, and something called the marketing series that they have. So you can find this online somewhere, by the way. It's up, the full Bobby Wiggins. You can search Bobby Wiggins Narconon Drug Education Lecture Hat, and you'll find it. It's been posted at least one, if not multiple places out there. And you can take a look at this for yourself and see these things. This is the actual thing that was taught for many years, and that reached millions of people in schools, kids in schools around the country subversively. And we used to do it for free, for example, in Oklahoma, just to be able to get a foot in the door, to be able to get people thinking good things about Narconon. And the way they were delivered, honestly, for a lot of kids, they thought they were fun. They enjoyed the sound effects and the antics and the high energy and that kind of thing more so than other people who came in and dryly would talk about substances and their results, so that it was very, very different from a lot of things back then. So this evolved and partnered with Friends of Narconon, and Robert Hernandez back at the time started doing videos of Bobby Wiggins delivering these drug education talks. And one of them was called The Truth About Drugs. Another one was called Marijuana the Myth. And they produced and sold these videos, and then they produced these educator kits that they would get sponsorships for, send them out to classes, show the videos in classes, then get responses from the students, and then post it on their website, and then use that to get into other schools and so on. Boston used to get a lot of corporate sponsorship money from area companies that they might have a corporate giving thing, and you just, because they were registered nonprofit, Narconon was, or still is. I don't believe Narconon Boston is in existence anymore, though. At least I haven't seen anything about them or from them in a long time. And they would get sponsorship, so businesses would give $500, $1,000 here and there, that kind of thing, as part of their annual area nonprofit things. And hey, on the surface, it's like, let's support this organization. They're getting in. They're helping to keep kids away from drugs. That's all appears to be very much on the up and up. Meanwhile, underneath it all, you have the primary purpose to deliver LRH data on drugs to kids in schools, and all these Scientology references that are the backbone of what it is that they're delivering to kids. So it's very subversive. Well, wind of this got around, and in 2005, the San Francisco Chronicle released a story that really blew up all over, and they wound up getting kicked out of San Francisco Unified School District, I think, and then LA Unified School District after that, and then I think the California Department of Education weighed in on it, and they were basically out of any kind of public schools there. They got into a few here and there for a while, but otherwise it was mostly. I'm sorry, that was 2004. That was the end of 2004 when that article came out. And they got into mostly private schools, And then Kelly Preston steps in, and she wanted to help establish a Narconon in Hawaii. And so they did drug education in Hawaii and went through the whole thing and went to Punahou High School and other private schools there, and were trying to get into public schools there, and even did a presentation at University of Hawaii, I think to the football team or something. They brought somebody out, and I think June Jones was the coach back then, former Atlanta Falcons coach. And so they were getting, like, trying to claw their way back into recognition of some type, and wound up paying for this large study to tabulate the surveys. Like the full curriculum would be given, a full 8 presentations would be given to a particular class, and they would do before, like, pre and post surveys, and how did their perceptions on drugs change, and that kind of stuff. And and they were initially, of course, primarily positive. The people who delivered the presentations were, they're charismatic. They enjoyed what they were doing. There was a couple young guys in Oklahoma that were part of it, especially, and and so it was like they generally got good feedback, until people found out what the real premise was that they're also delivering false information and twisted information, or partial truths and partial lies that didn't sit well with a lot of people. And because of the fact that it was trying to promote L. Ron Hubbard. In fact, at the end, Bobby Wiggins talks about being able to make sure and thank L. Ron Hubbard for, creating the Narconon program, or developing the technology that's used at Narconon, I think is how they used to say it. And so they couldn't just let that go. Well, eventually it fizzled out quite a bit, in the mid 2000s, like about a year or so after that. So Scientology comes around and goes, we're going to do something else. We are going to create the Foundation for a Drug-Free World. And they created this whole other front group, the splinter organization, entirely run by Scientology volunteers. And their whole thing was to make videos and pamphlets and send those out to schools worldwide. They produced them in multiple languages. And if you know anything about David Miscavige, he loved his printing press, so he wanted to print tons of paper and send it everywhere. And he loved his videos. Hubbard loved videos and his film production and stuff like that. So they produced some pretty slick films, sent them out to schools. And because it didn't say Narconon, and because it didn't initially say Scientology, unless you dug deeper to see really who the Foundation for a Drug-Free World was, and they eventually put it on their website, that Scientology sponsored all these organizations, including that. But it was kind of funny how people at Narconon really were upset in 2006 when the Foundation Drug-Free World came out, because they're like, what the hell? Why are you dumping all this money into these pamphlets and these videos? Why aren't you helping Narconon? Because we already have all this information from our drug education series. And they'd already given Bobby Wiggins a Freedom Medal, and so there was like all these parts where Narconon felt like they were just kind of left behind for a moment with Scientology, because they couldn't overcome the negative press that they were receiving. And that was in 2004, 5, and 6. That was way before, the big shitstorm came with, with all the lawsuits and unfortunately the fatalities that occurred at the Narconon centers. But regarding the drug education, I don't see much or hear much of Narconon drug education happening anywhere in the United States very much lately. I'm sure there are some people who get out and do some talks here and there. There was also another splinter group at one point called the Scientology Drug-Free Marshals, where they kind of did like a little pledge with kids at schools, and that was run by directly Scientology. So they've got a few other things out there that they're running as well, and it's interesting. So if you care to take a look, you can type in Narconon Drug Education San Francisco Chronicle and read that story, read the review there. You can type in Bobby Wiggins and Narconon Drug Education lecture hat, and you'll see that come up online as well. And see pull back the curtain, see what's really behind it, because behind the high energy and charismatic people that were doing it back then is really the intent to convert people to Scientology and get money, government recognition, etc. That's their whole MO. There you have it. That's the story for Narconon Scientology Chronicles. Hope you're well. Take care.